Discovering the root cause of our suffering can actually be quite surprising. We usually assume that we have a pretty good handle on what the cause of our suffering is. Sometimes we point to events in the past, sometimes we explain our current life circumstances. Maybe we will even go into just the general story we have about ourselves. Or we might point to the beliefs we have, right? We can say that I have this and that belief about what I am, and that is causing my suffering. All of that can be true in some sense, and I'm not trying to argue against that. On the contrary, a lot of times you will hear me point to the fact that it's absolutely essential that we check our beliefs, so to say, that we explore them and see if they apply, if they are not actually false beliefs. But what I want to suggest to you here today is that the actual root cause of suffering is much more basic and fundamental than that. How would I describe it in a word? I would describe it as grasping. That simple word, in my view, has tremendous explaining power. And I don't want you to take this on faith, right? As always, whenever I explain anything here on this channel, it's only an invitation for you to look at your own experience, to see if that applies. If it doesn't, well, forget all about it. There's no need to just adopt something on blind faith, of course. But what I'm saying here is that this grasping I just mentioned is a kind of activity of our mind which causes us our suffering and simultaneously is also causing this felt sense of being a separate, localized entity. So really, if we recognize that, it clears up so much for us. So often we try to come to a kind of solution to our problem, but we're not very specific about what the actual problem is. It's kind of funny, of course, because if you were to go to a doctor, for example, and he just prescribes you medication, but he never tells you what it's for. He never tells you what your actual illness is and what the cause of your illness is. There'd be something a bit strange about that, right? And so explore that in your experience. See what happens in those moments where you actually suffer, where you feel like you are this concrete, separate, solid entity. Another word one could use instead of grasping is attachment. That's a good word as well. I just prefer grasping because grasping kind of makes it more clear that it's an activity of the mind. Attachment kind of seems like a state or something permanent, but grasping emphasizes the fact that it's just presence, our true nature, in motion, which sometimes, through its own activity, takes the shape of grasping. Let's be a little bit more specific about what I mean with grasping in the first place. We all know the experience of attending to an object of our experience, right? I mean, you're doing it right now. You could say that when that happens, what is actually happening is that true nature, presence, kind of veils itself with its own activity. The objectness of presence seems to come more to the foreground. That in of itself is of course quite innocent. There's really nothing wrong with that. But what can happen as well is that this grasping activity can get mixed into that. The attention, therefore, is felt to be quite sticky, attached, so to say. And that causes this felt sense of being a localized, separate entity. What's really interesting about this realization is that it already kind of implies the solution of our suffering. And you might read this as me suggesting to you that now you only need to release all your grasping. And that is, in some sense, what I'm trying to say. I am inviting you to release this grasp and see what becomes obvious then. The magical thing about this kind of relaxation is that what becomes obvious is our true nature of presence. Just by releasing this grasping we have on an object, our true nature, in a sense, shines. It becomes obvious that this is already here, perfectly established. We see that this, what we really are, is already totally free of grasping. And I really see that as kind of a core aspect of my approach to this. That's not all there is to it. As I said earlier, exploring our beliefs is essential as well. But experiment with that, right? This is not something abstract. Right now, you have the ability to just relax a bit. This is quite easy to do. Right now, you're watching this video, or maybe you're looking somewhere in the room, whatever you're doing right now. There is just this ability, of course, to relax a bit and allow the peripheral vision to come online. Become aware of this experience of seeing you're having, and already there's a kind of sense of relaxation there, a kind of release of grasping. The feeling of being concrete and localized already softens a bit just as a result of that. But I'm inviting you to relax back even more. Sink into this presence which is already established here. And you see that it's already so. It's already free. There is only it. It includes everything. Or furthermore, it is everything. And you don't need to do anything to make it so. If you feel like you are a person, a separate entity, the best you can do is relax into this. But with that relaxation comes the spontaneous realization, the recognition that you already are totally free from grasping. So this is so simple to do. You just did it right now. Get accustomed to this taste, this perfume of freedom, this lack of grasping, which is your true nature, is freedom itself. So just relax into it and enjoy it.